Hey, welcome back. We're going to start video 3 here of the Wacht Am Rhein detailed playthrough. Try to cover some things. I did realize one of the videos, I think it was the first one, well, we haven't really went through a whole turn yet, so I guess I haven't. But I want to make sure to go through all this stuff here, not just the combat. That always gets the lion's share of people teaching and showing because that's the part we probably mostly enjoy. But there's really good stuff in here with logistics and stuff like that. So we'll be covering some of that too. So just hang tight for that. I'll try to make sure I cover the sequence of play as my goal in detail at least once as an example. All right, so let's get back to fire sport. We're going to be starting the Allied barrage. In the future, I didn't do this yet on the playthrough yet, but in the future I'm taking off all the spades of fired stuff. I thought it'd be easier just to grab these and use them, but I didn't like that after this video we won't be doing it that way. But anywho, let's get right into the Allied barrage. Now, if you want a detailed version of how the barrage works, go back to the last video. I go into quite a bit of detail. I want to make this one a little shorter. The only difference that I might do is I might go through one where we use group A, B, and C. Because remember, we don't use group A, B, and C when you're the attacker because you don't get the benefit of terrain. You're obviously not in a defensive work. And I'm sorry, group A and B. You would still have group C, but you don't get group A and B. So that was misspeaking of mine, but you do get it. You do get Group C because you can be mixed or pure armor, but you don't get the benefit of defenses or terrain. So if we'll have some examples of that, and I'll go ahead and do that. But that's unless there's a unique situation. I probably won't go into a ton of detail, but let's go ahead and get started. I want to try to get this one done. I'm actually into the 16th AM German ground assault. I've already done that, and there's some pretty interesting things going on. So I want to get caught up to that because I'd like to get those videos up as well. So let's get started. Okay, remember to also too, I don't say this enough probably. I know a lot of YouTubers are always telling you to subscribe and click the like button. So just a reminder to do that, please. If you're not subscribed, please subscribe. It helps the videos get seen more. And if you like the video the same, it'll get seen more. So appreciate that. All right, so here I just said I'm going to start using the spades that are on the table instead of putting more, which again, I'm going to change that and not do that later. So remember, we do spotter, the target, and then I'll mark the guns. So the allies are restricted in this turn to if they're in an entrenchment, and I think an IP, I can't remember, so you'd have to look up the special rule on that. They can have 2 guns, and if they're not, they get 1. I think it's any defensive work, so I think the IPs are included, but we'll see. Maybe I'll address that in here. So spotter, target, and I mark some guns. And then I got carried away. I marked 3 guns because I'm used to the allies being able to do that, but I can only bring 2. So we end up with the 6 firepower plus the die roll. There's a -1 game-specific modifier. I get +1 for the vantage point. So here's my spotter, right? There's the vantage point, the red triangle. And then +1 for steps because there's 3, 4, 5. This little red, I can't point at it with my pointer because if I move off, it's gone. But the little red spade underneath the 6th Panzer Army anti-tank unit means it only has 1 step. So its stats are actually in half. So it'd be a 1-2-12 instead of a 2-4-12. So I get the step bonus anyway because that's at 5 and 6. So here I kind of, in case you can read what I said, I was thinking, I need to watch attacks in the open because these guys are in the open, but then I realized it doesn't matter. You don't get the terrain anyway. So the reason that's kind of funny is because my opponent, Clay, just for whatever reason. Well, mostly because I know the Allies a little better because I played them my first game. So I understand the logistics and supply and stuff is a little bit different for some of the Allies versus Germans. So for whatever reason, whenever we've played a game, Clay has been the Germans. And Hurtgen, when I learned I was the attacker, not very good. But we've been playing Wacht Am Rhein for like a year and a half, almost 2 years. And I'm so used to defending that I'm not used to attacking. So I forgot that rule about not having the terrain right away. So it's kind of funny. So it's a DR +7. So the Allies they're gonna inflict a lot of damage because they only have that -1 modifier. So rolled a 7. That's a 14, which is going to equal 2 hits. So I put on there I need to try to hold. So I need to make a PR check, and you have to use the lowest PR in the group. So unfortunately I have a PR of 5 in there. So here we go. Rolled a 9, so that's a fail. So remember, if you take one hit, you can just take the hit and you're done. If you take more than one hit, you're going to take one hit, and then you got to try to hold if you want to hold. I could have just chose to retreat, but I still would have taken a hit because you retreat 1 hex, divide the number of hits by 2, and then round up, and that's how many hits you take. But I'm trying to push the attack, right? If I could bust a hole right here, that would be huge because there's nothing but artillery back here. I mean, that would be monstrous. But failed my PR check, so I don't get to hold if I wanted to. So that means I get to retreat and take an artillery shift. And so here I put failed. So I have to retreat and take both step losses. So remember your retreat priority. This is the 326th. I like this. The new retreat priority stuff is really good. Let's see if I can find it here. I think it's down here. I'm still learning where I put everything. Yeah, so they got these little things right here. So your first is into a hex that's not adjacent to an enemy unit, then into a hex closer to the superior HQ, then into a hex containing covering trains. So as you go down this list, as soon as you run into one, you can retreat. So I can retreat here or here, right? And it's also going closer. It's covering trains. So it's pretty much fulfilling everything. So I decided to go there. And the guys to my north would fire, but they only have one gun. They get it. Okay, so these guys here could spot, right? But there's only one gun there. And these guys, the Germans, are in a west wall that has not been destroyed, right? So if we hover over that, there's no destroyed markers where I created some here, right? Where they say destroyed, so you can kind of see them. So that is a fortification, and that is a -7. So there's no sense in doing it, you know. If I can fire a gun with a 2 or a 3, it's going to be a -7, so waste of time. So I just wanted to point that out, just to teach a few things. All right, so here we are. Target, spotter, and I got one gun back here that can fire. So we're going to see if it does anything. It was a 3 firepower plus DR -1 for game. And here I remembered that the attacking units don't get terrain anyway. So it's a DR +2. So you can see the difference where the Germans had all those these little ET2s, and then you throw in the -4 modifier for unobserved, early in the morning. It's a crazy amount of stats. But here, we only have a 1 gun firing, and we're a D +2, so we definitely have a chance to do some damage. But I roll a 2, so that's a no effect. Okay, spotter targets, guns. It's going to be 6 firepower plus DR -1 game specific, +1 for the number of steps, and +1 for a VP. So I'll show you that again. So there's the number of steps. You got 3, 4, and 5. And there's the vantage point. So these vantage points are really huge. When I first started playing the game, I kind of didn't even notice these triangles. Didn't give them much heed, didn't think much about it. And then after you play for a while, you're like, oh, those are pretty important. So definitely want to use those for spotters. You want to use them for combat and whatever you can. So also I've learned a valuable lesson in this game when you're attacking entrenchments. And this probably goes without saying for most of you guys, but if I don't bring engineers, it doesn't usually go very well. So I'm learning about getting my engineers up on the line as well. So this is a DR plus 7. I rolled another 7. So that's a 14. I'm going to try to hold again. I need another 5 or less. I get an 8. So they're going to take a hit and retreat. And anytime you retreat like that, you take an artillery shift. So I'm doing a lot of clicking there because, and I'm not showing you all this, but let me go ahead and run through this. So when you take losses, these are the easy ones, right? So let's scroll up here. There's a little chart that tells you when you take losses, there's a German side and an Allied side. So if it's an infantry battalion, okay, or an infantry company, like one step of basic infantry, you get one recycle step of infantry, and then to replace them, you've got to put a step. And this goes down each type of unit. So like, for example, if you lose a Hetzer step, for a Hetzer step point, that's 0.5 armor. And they used to have all these together with the symbols. I don't know why they changed that, but you can go down here on the sheet and it'll show you each kind of symbol and what they are. Over here is personnel units. So then you know what to lose, right? So if you're losing bigger tanks, like Mark IVs, Panthers, and Tigers, you're getting an armor. Shermans, M4 Shermans, you're getting an armor. Most of the tank destroyers, you're getting half. But this tells you what you lose or what you get for a recycle step, right? The recycle step is here. And then this tells you if you try to replace a step if you're during the replacement phase. So, oops, wrong thing. Let's go back to that. And boom. So basically this is how you keep track, and I'll zoom in here. Right, so I have one infantry loss. So while I was doing all that clicking, I was moving the 3 to the 4. And then you can, there's your armor loss. You can flip this over and clone it because it's a times 10 on the other side, which you will get to eventually. After the first AM ground assault, there's some things flipped over to the 10 side because infantry takes a beating on that. Okay, so let's keep going. Get a little sidetracked, but spotter, target, and guns. Okay, so 2 guns, 6 firepower, -1 game, +2 steps, so DR +7. And here I'd say, and I'm learning that if you can, bring armor with you. And okay, so one of the things that I like about GOS, this is a little sidetrack, okay, is you can break down your units, right? So if you have 2 steps, I'll do the Americans since I'm a little more familiar with them. But right here, here's an example where this is 2nd Armored, the 741st tank unit. They're M4s. They're on their flip side. So that means in this area somewhere, there's probably a 1-step tank. Let's see if I can find it. Probably end up, well, I'm not going to waste too much time on it. But what I could do is I'm going to hover over it so it's straight up. So if you look at that, there's 2 diamonds still on that. So I could break this down break it down and leave this as a company with a spade under it for 1 step. And then I could take, let's see where they at, the breakdown units here. Breakdown units. And it happens to be the top one. So I can break that guy down into essentially these 2 units right here, right? And then I can assign those to infantry battalions to work with them. So that's one of my favorite parts of GOS is the flexibility. You can do the same thing on the, let's see, I gotta switch to, I'm in the US, why aren't those, oh, delete's on the top. Okay, I was like, how come I can't delete them? Same with this engineer. This is a core engineer. He's got 3 steps. So I could go up here And I could grab this engineer and create. Where's it? Oh, you can't clone these, sorry. I don't know why they don't let you clone them, but so this guy here equals these three guys here. And then the nice thing is on Vassal you have changed labels, so I could put the 254th right there, so that later on, and I would do that with all three of these, so then this would go over here. You can see the breakdown units I have from when you set up, you have to break down a number of units, right? So these are all broke down units. They have little units all over representing them. The 9th Armor's way to the south. There's some 4th Division that's spread out. Here you got some, I think that's a core asset. 8th. So you put your units here that are broken down. Okay, there's another spot here, another spot here. These are the eliminated units, right? Which we don't have yet. So anyway, so this guy would go into that part of the box. I'll just show you so that it's complete, right? Because I'm kind of a visual. So I'd go, okay, well, this guy broke down and he's over here now. And then, you know, these guys would break down and they can start, I believe in the hex or any hex touching it, they can start and it uses up some of their movement. And then they can move around, and these can be attached to infantry units. So infantry battalions can take these so that you have engineer points. So when you're attacking or defending, you have a benefit, right? I'm learning about that, being more efficient with that instead of just leaving my engineers in big globs, because that's what I'm used to doing in other games, and just using them as a pseudo infantry unit. And that's not really what you want to do. So let's get rid of those guys and we will bring him back to there. Okay, so that was free. That was a little freebie for you. So anyway, so we rolled a 1, so it ends up just being an artillery shift because 8 is artillery shift. So all right, so spotter, targets, and guns. This one I only have a company there. So a company size unit, no matter what, can only call in 1 gun typically, I believe it is. So 3 firepower, -1 game, +2 steps. So it ends up being a DR +4. So very worth it for the Allies. But we roll a 0, so no effect. Okay, so I was complaining here about the 106th. We're down here and the artillery seems a little bit sparse. You know, we have a lot right here, but there's a lot of attacks coming at us. We got attacks up here. We got 14th Cavalry up here. I believe that's who's up here. Yeah, 14th Cav. And it's a little, we don't have enough guns to defend all these. So I'm skipping firing with the recon unit that's here, I believe, because I don't have enough artillery and I don't want to use these up. So I said I might come back to that. So we're marking spotter, target, guns. And so what I like to do is I like to try to use a divisional artillery and then try to use some core or army assets. These are all core assets, so that I don't use up, because sometimes I grab too many division assets, and like here we have 1, 2, 3 attacks. That's 106. Yeah, we actually have 4 attacks on elements around the 106th, right? And there's only 3 divisional guns, which means, if I remember, we talked about in the last video, you have to have a divisional gun before you can bring in more than 1 gun. Then you can bring in one other division's guns to help, or core and army assets. So very important to keep that artillery assets in my mind anyway. Okay, so we end up with all the modifiers, DR +6. That's a 4. That's a DR +4. They had a mixed rating. So I rolled an 8, so that's a 12. And let's just show you the difference of what the mixed armor does. So 14 is right here. That's 2. Well, in this case, it didn't actually matter, because 14 through 16 is all 2 losses. But it would have been a 16, so then it didn't matter. But, you know, that takes an extra 2 off. So, oh, wait a minute, what am I doing here? Did I do that wrong? 12 versus 14. Oh, no, I'm sorry. It wasn't a 14. I had 8. That did help. So instead of a 14, which is 2 losses, it ended up being a 12, which is an AS1. Sorry, I get sidetracked. I was starting to throw this other stuff in, the bonus stuff, and then I forget what I'm doing. So Germans will hold. So they get an artillery shift, take a step loss, and not mark the artillery shift. I guess we'll find out. Germans, okay, so we're marking stuff. So here we had a DR plus 7, so that ends up being a 16, so that's 2 losses. They take an artillery shift. I think I forgot to mark an artillery shift there. Again, like I said in the last video, there's a lot going on in this game. Stuff is going to get missed once in a while. I would encourage you not to get bogged down in the perfection of getting everything 100% right. There's a lot of history you can absorb and learn here. There's lots of tactical stuff you can learn. Obviously, we want to play it 100% right if we can. I'm not saying be sloppy or just bang out whatever, but don't let that ruin it for you. So, okay. So we'll just go, I'm going to go through the rest of these rounds kind of quick just to, I want to get this video out. Again, if you want more instructional stuff, watch the last video. Okay, so we got, just saying here, I'm only using the top gun in case I need to use it later. So we got a DR plus 7. We roll a 1. So we end up with an 8. I'm sure if Clay is watching, he's wondering where these artillery die rolls are when he plays me, because for whatever reason in this module, Hurtgen I didn't do as well. And I know people say that the die roller for Vassal ain't the greatest, but whatever. I'm using it for both sides, so it is what it is. I would prefer to actually roll a die, but showing you on here, I don't want to do that. If I was fancier, I want to get a little camera set up off to the side and have like a dice tower and have a camera on that. We could put that in the lower left-hand corner maybe, and then I could just roll in there because I prefer real dice, but whatever. Okay, so here's the next one. So we ended up with DR plus 4, rolled the 10. Remember, the 10 equals 0, so that's a 4, so that's a swing and a miss, which the Germans, every one of these that they can help with is a good deal. So here's where I was talking about. We got, just in this area, we got three hexes of the 28th that are under assault. We got this one. Oh, sorry. This one. Wait a minute. Oh, over here is what I'm talking about. Sorry. This one, and this one are all the 28th Infantry Division. And again, we have a real lack of guns. We have one divisional gun up here. We have a couple down here. No, one down there. And then the rest are all parked down here. So, let me zoom out a little bit. So the 28th Infantry Division is literally holding from here, right? And these are all little broke down companies. These are those little breakdown units we were talking about. All the way up to here. It's like, who did that historically? That is a mess. I mean, they must have really thought nothing was going to happen. Because that's a mess. And then the other thing that I don't get historically, and this is the fun part, I think, is here you got the 2nd Infantry Division and the 99th Infantry Division is all intermixed, right? So how are you supposed to get, they even have some where they're, let's see, maybe it's down, you get down here and you got guys of different divisions next to each other. How are you supposed to even help each other? So anyway, you don't get the friendly support. Okay, so next, let's move on here. So, spotter target guns. It was a DR plus 3, rolled a 9. So it's an AS1. Germans will take it to keep pushing the attack. So what I decided is the Germans here is you can either fall back if you take losses and not attack. My thinking is with the Germans, I want to slam into everything as hard as I can. We're just going to take whatever losses we can take, whatever we have to, because if I can rip some holes into this line early, that's the objective, right? If I sit here and dance around too long and wait for the perfect storm where I don't lose a lot of steps, the Allies are just they're already getting ready to come. So we gotta keep pushing is how I looked at it. All right, so I'm sorry, yeah. In there I forgot about the vantage point, but it's the same result. So all right, so this one is a DR +1, no effect. So that one didn't do anything. This one didn't do too bad. You can see the flipped over Voigt infantry. So now we're going to probably jump down to here. Oh no, that's all I could. That's again, I didn't have enough guns. So here's a spotter. Target, mark some guns. Only one gun will reach, so DR +3, roll a 2. That ain't going well. I give an uh-oh there because I've had like 3 out of 4 now that haven't done much. And that starts getting expensive because we need to do as much damage as we can with artillery because we don't have a lot for troops in this area. Okay, so there I was playing late at night or something, so I ran out of log file. So I am going to open the next one. And we will continue on the turn. So, boom, boom, boom. And I kind of like this a certain way. Sorry, even though we're recording, I like that a certain way, so I'm going to do that. So we were right about here. Okay, so that's the other nice thing. So normally I try to do a whole phase in a vassal mod, so that way I don't have to interrupt like that. But I'm going to close this one. But in that instance, I didn't because it was probably late at night, and I figured I better call it quits for the night. So that's okay. All right, so let's continue on. All right, so we got 2 guns there. So we got DR +6. A 3 is a 9, so we just do an artillery shift. And, you know, you take anything you can get. Artillery shift can and will help during the combat, but let's see. So 42-19, I said I had no artillery in range. So this guy here doesn't have anyone that could hit this guy because look, we got a 5 down here, an 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Oh, I did have 1, but I must have been thinking about using them down there. So there's a mistake. So then I'm like, okay, so do I help 45-20, which is right here? He's got 3 guys prepared assaulting him, and I don't know what, I mean, I know what they are kind of because I play both sides, but looking at this, I can't remember. So do I help him, or do I help this guy here, 46-23? They're both in entrenchments. He has an artillery shift. He has 3 attacking him. He has 2 stacks attacking him. So I decide we're going to help this guy. So spotter target guns. And I decided, you can see here, I don't like all the spades on there. They don't look nice. So I decided real quick, let's clean those up. Okay. So 6 firepower with +1, -1. So DR +6. And we roll a 5, which is respectable. We do 1 damage. So let's see if I can hover over that and continue. You'll see where I take the damage. So there he flipped over. So now he's got the light blue stripe. And then don't forget this. Remember to record everything. Now the Germans, I accidentally put everybody in this one because when I play the Americans, I only have 1. But I have 3 armies for the Germans, so later on I go back and fix that. I have to go back and watch the files. That's the other nice thing with Vassal, is you can go back and look at stuff and try to fix some things. And I do that. I'm not going to go back and fix a ton of stuff or minor things necessarily, but I do want to have the most accurate portrayal of what I'm trying to play here. So, okay, so next one. So there's the spotter, target, guns way down here. Only the top gun, I said, because there's 2 guns in the stack, so it ends up being a 7 firepower plus the die roll plus 1 for steps, no VP because they're both on a VP. So here's my guy on a vantage point, right? So, and that's the other thing with vassals, you can hover over and show units. So here's my guy on a vantage point. But if the defender is also on a vantage point, you don't get that. And then remember, this is another thing that early on in my Goss career, we'll call it, experience, you got to watch for this, restricted terrain. It's easy to miss, and it really makes a difference for the defender and the attacker to make sure you're doing that. There's strategic points because you can't have as much stuff stacked in there is the point, right? Okay, so we end up with 8 plus the die roll. We get a 0. So that was a major opportunity. I mean, they could have pounded this guy bad, and they end up with an artillery shift. So it is what it is. I'm going to get rid of some more spades because they look ugly. And I think we got what? One more? Did I do? Yeah. So spotter. Change the spotter. Spotter. Guns. And the target. Okay. Did I switch? Yeah, I switched. I went with this guy, and then I was like, nope, I want this guy. And then because the last time I got hosed because of the vantage point, I decided to go over here where there's no vantage point because I want that extra +1, right? Would it have been better to go after this? I don't know. Now we'll look, but normally you don't get to look when you're playing your opponent, so it's a gentleman's agreement, right? So looking here, there's 4 steps, but it's all infantry, no bonus. And here it's 4 steps, all infantry, so there's no armor bonus. So it didn't matter. But what if this had 5 steps or 6 or 7 steps? You never know. Or what if this had the same number of steps, but it had a Stug support unit in there or something like that, right? So that's the chances you take. So ends up with a DR +5, you roll a 4, so an artillery shift. So all in all, pretty abysmal artillery for the Americans. I mean, the Americans really need that artillery to smash the Germans because they don't got much for troops. Also, I put a note on here on area 5126. This guy right here, I said I removed the artillery shift from the unit 5126 because I forgot the -1. I think I forgot there that the vantage points cancel each other. So it ended up being a 7, not an 8, which is a no effect. Okay, so then we would go on to the ground assaults. I'm going to stop this video here, and then we will do the ground assaults on the next one because those are a little more lengthy. I'd like to cover all the ground assaults for the Germans. So it's interesting. There's a lot going on. Remember, my goal on this thing is I want to play 1 day on this, 1 day on probably BCS. I think it was the last Blitzkrieg is the Bulge one. Yeah, because Panzer's Last Stand is the one where they're fighting around, is it Romania? Anyway, I'm still learning that stuff. So I want to do the BCS one. Then there's an old GDW Bulge game called Attack in the Ardennes. It was the first war game I ever bought. It's not a very good, probably portrayal, I'm guessing. But we're going to play it. We're going to see how close they are to each other. Maybe that it's a point-to-point system. It's not real beautiful. But the counters were nice. They were big. And it was my first war game. So I kind of have a spot in my heart for it. Anyway, I'm going to wrap this one up a little shorter, and then we'll get on to the ground assaults for the next video. I appreciate you watching. You got any questions or comments, please put them down below. Remember to like and subscribe. Thanks much.